Today, let's talk about LAFC, that's Los Angeles Football Club, the reigning MLS Cup champions. They're one of MLS's younger clubs, having started play in 2018, but they almost immediately found success, having won the Supporters Shield twice and the MLS Cup this last year. And for a place like Los Angeles, you'd think this black and gold would be a really hot jersey to wear, and it probably is, but it does look pretty fly. This kit's from a couple years ago when Adidas, who is the kit sponsor for every team in MLS, was doing pretty much the exact same thing for all teams. There's 3 stripes, the Adidas stripes down the shoulder for every club, as well as this V-shaped neck. Because of how young they are, they've only ever had 2 managers, the first being Bob Bradley, and the second, and the current one, being Steve Cherundolo, former U.S. men's national team player, and there's some word that he's going to be taking over as the U.S. men's national team coach, although I think it's way too early for that just because he doesn't have a lot of managerial experience, and he's just starting with LAFC. They have a pretty straightforward badge, as you can see here. It also, just like Galaxy, uses a lot of the Art Deco fixtures and art stylings from around Los Angeles, as you can see with the A, which has its wings on it. Second, it's in a shield shape, like many badges around the world, but this one specifically mimics the seal of Los Angeles. The MLS Cup that they won this year was probably one of the best finals we've ever seen in the league. It was 3-3 after regular time and extra time, and was won on penalties 3-0. It really had everything. It was great. Both teams traded goals 2 each during regular time, in extra time, in stoppage time at the very end of it. Each team scored 1 goal, with the final one being for LAFC from Gareth Bale, the final goal of his career 8 minutes into that stoppage time. During extra time, the keeper for LAFC actually got sent off and the backup had to come in, and during the penalty kick shootout, he made 2 saves, and the other one by Philadelphia Union was shot over the bar. So he essentially was man of the match, having come off the bench. They're runners-up in the 2020 Champions League, losing to Tigres in the final, but they had a really good run all the way to the final, beating Cruz Azul, prior to that, Leon, and Club America in a really hot match that might be the stem of a future rivalry between the 2 clubs. It would be pretty cool to see this become a rivalry, seeing as the 2 might meet in the Leagues Cup, a new competition coming up mid-season this year, but that wouldn't surpass their real rival, which is Galaxy, also from the Los Angeles area. The match they have between the 2 is called Clásico del Tráfico, more commonly known as El Tráfico, nicknamed after El Clásico between Real Madrid and Barcelona. Essentially, they took the name because LA traffic sucks. It's a younger rivalry in the league, just because LAFC haven't been in the league that long, but it's already taken root in the area. It's a geographical one, seeing as you will never see an LAFC supporter call them LA Galaxy. They call them Galaxy or Carson, really contending with the fact that LAFC is based downtown in Los Angeles proper, and LA Galaxy is out in Carson. 17 matches so far, 7 wins for Galaxy, 5 for LAFC, but LAFC can hold on to the fact that they've won both meetings in the MLS playoffs. This matchup is going to be the season opener for MLS coming up on February 25th. Instead of playing at either of their usual stadiums, they're going to play at the iconic Rose Bowl. Let's touch on our MLS-specific topic this time around before we get into former and current players for LAFC. Our topic this time is expansion teams. The thing about MLS is it started playing back in 1996. It only had 10 teams at the time. The idea being that it wasn't that big of a sport here and there weren't enough cities that really could hold an entire soccer team at the time. Obviously, the sport is growing, and with that, it needs to spread regionally across the United States. There's more markets that can hold a soccer team, so progressively since starting at 10 and only one time dropping back to then, the league has grown and is currently 29 different teams, with a 30th coming in soon, and probably on the horizon up to 32 different teams. So that's radically different as far as count from pretty much any other top flight league in the world, seeing as most of the other ones are about 18 to 20 teams. Where that really differs for MLS is the fact that it has a huge amount of geographic space to cover for all of its teams between the United States and Canada. So tons of teams have joined. Here's how it goes when they're coming into the league. So a financial group or just a group of owners have to come together, build out a prospective plan, and submit it to MLS, who consider it based on things like if they have financial backing for now, as well as in the future to really invest in the league, if they have a soccer stadium already set up, specifically if it's a soccer-only stadium is a big flag for teams, if that region that they're coming from, so the city or just region in general, really like soccer already, if they have another club, if there's interest essentially. If that all passes, they have to pay an expansion fee which ranges in price in order to join the league. That fee can vary and steadily increases as more teams join the league and the league becomes more popular. For example, in 2020, Nashville SC joined the league. They had to pay $150 million. MLS is expecting the next fees in future to be about $200 and then $325 million. Okay, so once you're in, you pretty much have to start building infrastructure, start looking at bringing players to your team before you start even playing. For example, the newest club coming in and starting this season, St. Louis City SC, has had a couple players already on their books before even starting to play a season. The other big way of getting players in, as well as players that already have MLS playing experience, is the expansion draft. The quick nutshell on what that is any team that's already in the league has to offer up a range of players from which the new team can select in the draft and sign to their club. They don't have to put up a ton of players, and if they have one player chosen from their team, they can't have another. And to circle back around to LAFC, they did really well in their expansion draft, taking two really key players, the first being Tyler Miller, their goalkeeper, as well as Latif Blessing, a forward who's just moved on from the club. And to mention two more former players, let's talk about Diego Rossi, who transferred to Fenerbahce after 3.5 seasons at LAFC, which is a pretty successful thing for a young club. And in the same vein, Eduard Atuesta also transferred to Brazilian giants Palmeiras this last season. They have a lot of talent in their squad, and if you're talking about LAFC players, you always have to start with Carlos Vela, who came to them in their initial season, was their first ever designated player. He's a controversial attacking midfielder, seeing as he's played for the Mexican national team and then refused to play for the Mexican national team at times. He's a really good goal-scoring threat as well as a goal-creating threat. He has European experience, having played on loan from Arsenal for many years before landing at La Real and having a lot of success there before coming to LAFC. Second man to mention is the Ecuadorian Jose Cifuentes from central midfield. He's already scored 13 goals and assisted 13 goals for the club in the league. And finally, Denis Bouanga, who transferred to the club from France just in the middle of last season. He started a little bit slow, but he came up pretty big in the MLS playoffs. In 3 matches, he bagged 2 goals. So there's your quick rundown on LAFC.